Hi, I'm Carl Boyd Jr., radio show host, political analyst, and conservative strategist for Nothing But the Truth radio program. This is part 2 of our series, Broker Convention. As you all know, there's been a lot of chatter this year in the Republican primary about a broker convention. Everyone is talking broker convention, broker convention. Even this past weekend, former Governor Sarah Palin at the CPAC convention, she mentioned the possibility of a broker convention. She said it's a good thing to have a broker convention. And the reason that we're going to have a broker convention more than likely is because a lot of people are not happy with the current candidates that are running right now. People are looking for a conservative candidate. People are not happy with some of the candidates, and more than likely we're going to have a broker convention for the first time since 1976 with Gerald Ford and Ronald Reagan. But this is part 2 of a broker convention, and we're going to do a quick recap for those who missed the first video but are catching this video as well. We're dealing with a broker convention, and before we understand a broker convention, we have to understand the delegates, binding delegates, non-binding delegates, proportionate delegates, the amount of delegates that are in the Republican nomination this year. Now, there are 2,286 total number of delegates in the Republican Party this year. In order to win the nomination, a candidate must receive 1,144. Now, at the end of the primary and caucus season, if no candidates receive the magic number 1,144, then the convention is considered broker. Now, at that particular time, it goes into a system what we call political horse trading, which means that there are 2 rounds of voting. Now, on the first round of voting, if no candidate has the magic number 1,144, then the convention is considered broker. Those delegates that were warned by each candidate during the respective state's primary and caucus are free to go and align themselves with a different candidate before the second round of voting begins. This is why it's called a broker convention. Now, those delegates, they don't have to leave. They can stay with the same candidate, or they can leave and align themselves with the candidate that has the best chance of winning. So make sure we understand what a broker convention is. A broker convention is when a candidate does not have 1,144 delegates. If they don't have that after the first round of voting, then those delegates are free to align themselves with any other candidate as long as they do it before the second round of voting takes place. Now, last week, I told you guys there were 5 states who lost some delegates because they decided to move their primary and caucus up, and they was penalized for that. You have New Hampshire, who went from 23 to 12. South Carolina went from 50 to 25. Florida went from 99 to 50. Arizona went from 58 to 29. And last week I said Missouri, but it's Michigan. Michigan went from 59 to 30. These 5 states lost delegates because they decided to move up their primary in order to be competitive during this primary and caucus season, and the RNC penalized them. Now, I want to get over here and talk about the 2 forms of delegate quickly here. I don't want to take up a lot of time on the video because I want to make sure everyone understands. I want to keep it simple. We've been listening to a lot of political pundits, and my team and I, we have spent the last 72 hours researching, putting all this information together to make it simple, because I've been hearing political pundits on TV getting it wrong. There are 2 forms of delegates. You have non-binding and binding delegates. Now, the non-binding delegates can vote for whoever they choose. The binding delegates have to vote for whoever won the state's primary or caucus. Now, keep in mind, there are 3 types of delegates. You have the RNC, you have the at-large, and you have the congressional district. And we'll talk more about those in part 3 of our video. But real quickly here, I want to get to our delegate allocation here. There are 3 different ways that there are 3 different ways that delegates are allocated in the Republican primary. You have, number 1, the winner takes all. Number 2, you have proportional, ranging from percentages from 10% to 25% of votes. And then number 3, they sell it at the convention floor. Now, pundits on television have been getting this wrong. We've been talking about the political count, the delegate count. They've been getting it wrong. And I want to make sure people understand this. According to each state rules and regulations, the non-binding, the proportional, the winner takes all, the binding. Right now we've had 9 contests so far. And Iowa, which was the first one, was a non-binding. And you have Newt Gingrich has 1 delegate. Mitt Romney has 7, Ron Paul has 7, and Rick Santorum has 7. In New Hampshire, which is proportional, Newt Gingrich has 0, Mitt Romney has 7, Ron Paul has 3, Rick Santorum has 0. In South Carolina, which is supposed to be a winner-take-all, it's another one of those states that was penalized for moving up their primary. We have to wait and see whether or not the RNC is going to enforce their rules. But right now, Newt Gingrich won South Carolina. He has 23 delegates. Mitt Romney 0, Ron Paul 2, Rick Santorum 0. In Florida, here we go, another state that was penalized for moving their primary up. We have to wait and see whether or not the RNC are going to enforce their rules. But this is where we stand right now. It's a winner-take-all. You have Gingrich 0, Romney won this one, 50, Paul 0, Santorum 0. Nevada, another binding state. You have Gingrich 6, Romney 14, Paul 5, and Santorum 3. Colorado, which is another non-binding state, they're going to have their convention later on in the year, and then the winner would get those delegates. But Colorado, you have Gingrich 2, Romney 13, Paul 1, and Santorum 17. Missouri, which is another non-binding state, they're going to have the convention later in March. No one won anything right now, but Rick Santorum did win the state. In Minnesota, another non-binding state, Newt Gingrich 9, Mitt Romney 4, Ron Paul 12, and Rick Santorum 12. In Maine, another non-binding state, you have Newt Gingrich 1, Mitt Romney 8, Ron Paul 7, and Rick Santorum 4. And now, this is where we are. The delegate leaders, according to the state's primary and caucus, non-binding and binding, only Mr. Cameraman, delegate leaders. Mitt Romney sitting at 103. Rick Santorum, 43. Newt Gingrich, 42. Ron Paul, 37. Make sure we focus on these numbers. This is the most accurate information that we have right now, so stop listening to the political pundits. Now, keep in mind, all of this can change once the RNC enforce their rules and update their political delegate system. Now, in our part 3, we're going to talk about possible scenarios, who can win the Republican nomination. Because we have 4 candidates that are left in the race, doesn't necessarily mean that these candidates will be the representative for the Republican Party. Keep in mind, people are not happy with the candidates, voting turnout is low, and the Republican Party has a job to do, and that job is to have the most viable candidate to run against President Obama, which means this leaves the door open for any current and former Republican official. Sarah Palin could be the nominee. Herman Cain is still out there. He could be the nominee. So it's going to be interesting how this plays out.
Better is dead.
Okay. So it's going to be interesting how this plays out. So see you in part 3.